There comes a moment in every person's life when the crowd stops cheering, the friends stop calling, and the world gets real quiet. You look around, and suddenly, it's just you. No helping hands, no warm voices telling you it's going to be all right, just silence. And that heartbeat in your chest reminding you, you're still here. See, that's the moment that defines you. Not the celebrations, not the applause, but that moment when you've got to push forward, alone. When nobody believes in you, you've got to believe in yourself twice as hard. Because greatness doesn't grow in comfort, it's born in isolation. Every champion you admire once walked through that lonely valley of doubt, betrayal, and fear. And in that valley, they made a choice to rise, to fight, to keep going. So if you're standing in that darkness right now, if you're tired, broken, feeling unseen, listen to me. This is not your ending. This is your becoming. This is the fire that will shape your strength, the silence that will teach your voice to roar. Don't curse the struggle. Embrace it. Because when no one is there for you, that's when you discover what you're truly made of. Silence can be the loudest sound in your life when the people you once depended on are gone, when the noise of support fades, and when the applause turns to echoes of memory. It's in that quiet that you start to see who you are without validation. You start to notice how heavy your own thoughts can be, how loud your doubts sound when no one is around to drown them out. But silence, my friend, is not your enemy. It's your classroom. It's the space where your character gets built. Because when you can sit in that stillness and not run from it, when you can find comfort in your own company, you begin to hear a different voice, the one that's been whispering all along, you're stronger than you think. In that quiet, you learn to depend on yourself, to trust your intuition, to believe that your next step doesn't require approval. Silence becomes the training ground for resilience, and resilience becomes your weapon. When you first enter that silence, it's uncomfortable. It feels like abandonment, like the world has turned its back on you. The phone stops buzzing, the invitations stop coming, and you start asking yourself if you did something wrong. But here's the truth. Sometimes isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're being pulled away so you can rebuild. Because when there's too much noise, you can't hear your calling. The silence gives you space to hear the whisper of your purpose. You start seeing patterns, noticing truths you ignored when life was loud. You start realizing who's real, what matters, and what doesn't. And as much as it hurts to lose people, that empty space becomes sacred. It's the room where your next version is being born. In silence, you will argue with yourself. You'll doubt your worth, question your path, and replay mistakes until they sting. But that's part of the cleansing. You're detoxing from the lies the world told you. Lies that said you're only valuable when you're seen, only worthy when you're wanted. In solitude, you learn that your value isn't tied to attention, it's tied to your existence. You start to appreciate your own mind, your own creativity, your own heart. The thoughts that used to scare you become lessons. The emotions that used to break you become strength. You begin to see that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being aligned with your purpose, your truth, your vision. That's when silence stops hurting and starts healing. There's a kind of magic that happens when you stop chasing company and start chasing clarity. You begin to understand that people who left you did not take your destiny with them. What's meant for you cannot be carried away by someone else's absence. The silence gives you perspective. It slows the world down enough for you to breathe, to plan, to rebuild from the ground up. You learn to stop begging for presence and start commanding peace. You stop waiting for others to recognize your worth and begin showing it through your actions. In that stillness, ideas come, visions appear. The kind of creativity that only blooms when distractions disappear. It's not the noise that makes greatness. It's the quiet hours of unseen work, of silent faith, of unseen tears. You see, silence teaches discipline. It's easy to talk big when everyone's watching, but it's hard to stay consistent when no one notices your grind. That's where most people quit, when there's no applause. But if you can keep showing up in that silence, if you can keep putting in work while no one claps for you, you're building something unshakable. You're teaching yourself that your drive doesn't depend on recognition. Every day you rise in silence. Every time you fight through that emptiness, you're building invisible strength. The world doesn't see it yet, but it will. Because silence is where warriors train. And when the noise returns, when your moment arrives, you'll stand there calm, steady, and ready. In silence, you start to see how much energy you used to waste on trying to be understood. You realize not everyone needs to get you. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you. Some journeys are meant to be walked alone, because that's how you find your true direction. The quiet helps you stop explaining and start executing. You let go of convincing people and focus on becoming undeniable. You learn that your results will speak louder than any defense you could ever make. That realization is freeing. It gives you back your power. You no longer live for acceptance. You live for alignment. You no longer wait for company. You walk your path with conviction, because the silence has taught you how to be your own companion. There's another kind of silence that hits deeper, the one after failure, when you gave everything and still came up short. When no one texts you good job because they didn't even notice you tried. That silence can break a person or build them. You get to decide. You can let it convince you that you're not enough, or you can let it remind you that success isn't instant. That greatness requires seasons where no one sees your effort. The silence after failure is not rejection, it's reflection. It's the universe saying, not yet, learn a little more, grow a little stronger. If you can endure that silence without losing faith, you become unstoppable. Because once you learn to be patient in the dark, the light will never scare you again. And one day when the silence finally breaks, when the world begins to notice, when the crowd returns, when the noise fills your space again, you'll realize something powerful. You'll realize that the quiet didn't weaken you, it refined you. It stripped away every illusion, every false dependency, every shallow motivation. You'll remember those nights when you sat alone, wondering if you'd ever make it. And you'll smile. Because you did, you'll understand that you didn't just survive the silence, you mastered it. And that mastery will become your peace, your edge, your secret. Because when the world gets loud again, you'll no longer crave the noise. You'll know your real power was never in the crowd. It was always in the quiet. Pain. That word alone can stir something deep inside you, a memory, a scar, a moment that still burns. Pain is the great equalizer. It doesn't care who you are, where you're from, or what you've achieved. It finds everyone. It comes when you least expect it, stays longer than you want, and leaves behind a version of you that you barely recognize. But here's the truth most people run from. Pain isn't your punishment. It's your power. It's the storm that tears down your comfort so you can rebuild with purpose. Every tear, every sleepless night, every heartbreak, it's all fuel. You can let pain break you, or you can let it build you. The difference is in your response. When life hits you, you can stay down, or you can decide that every hit will strengthen your resolve. Pain is not the end. It's the beginning of transformation. When you're in pain, your mind will try to tell you that it's over, that you've lost everything that mattered. But pain is not a dead end, it's a doorway. It's life testing how badly you want what you say you want. The struggle you're facing isn't random, it's targeted. It's designed to shape your character, not destroy it. Diamonds don't come from comfort, they come from pressure. Steel doesn't become strong until it's forged in fire. So when it feels unbearable, when your heart feels too heavy to carry, remind yourself, this isn't punishment, this is preparation. The pain is sculpting your strength, teaching you endurance, and forcing you to find a deeper layer of courage you didn't know existed. You're not breaking, you're becoming. Sometimes pain isolates you. People can't understand what you're going through, and even when they mean well, their words fall flat. That's because your pain is personal. It's tailor-made for your growth. No one else can feel it like you do, because it's meant to teach you something specific. In that loneliness, you find an intimacy with your own soul. You start to ask different questions. What is this trying to show me? Instead of why me? And that shift in perspective changes everything. Pain stops being the villain and starts becoming your mentor. It teaches you humility, patience, empathy. You begin to see the beauty in the breaking, the wisdom in the wound. The moments you thought were endings reveal themselves as beginnings in disguise. Pain forces you to grow in ways comfort never could. When everything is easy, you don't stretch. You don't evolve, you stay safe, predictable, and small. But pain demands change. It demands movement. It demands that you rise. Every challenge you face introduces you to a stronger version of yourself. Every setback sharpens your focus. Every loss deepens your gratitude. You start to appreciate the things you used to take for granted. You stop waiting for the world to give you peace and start creating it within yourself. And that's the secret. Pain doesn't just teach you strength, it teaches you self-reliance. Once you've learned to heal yourself, no one can take that power away from you. The truth is, pain will introduce you to your purpose. Some of the greatest missions in this world were born from suffering. The person who lost a loved one starts a foundation. The one who failed builds a movement. The broken-hearted artist creates a masterpiece. Why? Because pain makes you see the world differently. It strips away the superficial and connects you to something real. It gives your voice authenticity, makes your story matter. When you turn pain into purpose, you stop running from it. You use it. You let it speak through your work, your passion, your service. You realize that what once felt like a curse is actually your greatest gift to give back. Turning pain into power doesn't mean pretending it doesn't hurt. It means choosing not to let it define you. It means standing in the middle of your storm and saying, "This will not break me." Power isn't found in pretending you're fine. It's in acknowledging your pain and deciding to grow through it. Every scar you carry is proof that you made it through something meant to destroy you. Every wound that healed taught you how to love deeper, fight smarter, and stand taller. You stop hiding your pain and start owning your story, because once you realize your pain gave you wisdom, compassion, and resilience, you see it was never wasted. It was the path to your power all along. Pain will also reveal who's really in your corner. When you're broken, fake love disappears. The people who only stayed for the sunshine will vanish in the rain. But that's not a loss, it's a cleansing. Pain removes what doesn't serve you. It clarifies your circle and sharpens your boundaries. It teaches you to rely on inner strength rather than external approval. And once you stop depending on others to carry your load, you discover just how powerful you really are. You stop chasing validation and start chasing growth. Pain may change you, but it changes you for the better. It strips away the weak parts and rebuilds you in truth. And one day, when you look back at the pain that once made you tremble, you'll realize it was the reason you became who you are. The nights you cried, the failures that crushed you, the moments that left you feeling forgotten. They were all chapters in your becoming. You'll see that the pain didn't come to end you, it came to elevate you. Because without that pain, you wouldn't have found your purpose. Without the heartbreak, you wouldn't have found your strength. Without the struggle, you wouldn't have found your power. So now when pain comes again, and it will, you won't fear it. You'll face it with a steady heart, knowing it's not your enemy. It's your evolution in disguise. Discipline over emotion. That's the difference between those who dream and those who do. Emotion is loud, it's unpredictable. One day it fills you with fire and the next it disappears without warning. But discipline is steady. It doesn't ask if you feel ready. It doesn't wait for motivation. It shows up, rain or shine, heartbreak or happiness. When you live by emotion, you live like a leaf in the wind, moved by every storm. But when you live by discipline, you become the wind. You move with purpose, not impulse. You make progress, not excuses. Because emotions will tell you to quit when it gets hard. They'll whisper that you're tired, that it's unfair, that you deserve a break. But discipline speaks truth. It says, keep going. You said you would. That's how real change happens. Not by waiting to feel right, but by doing what's right, even when it hurts. There will be days when you don't feel like getting up, when your body is sore and your heart is heavy. The world will tell you to take it easy, to rest, to try again later. But discipline whispers, now. It knows that comfort is a slow killer. It knows that consistency beats intensity. Emotion will get you started, but discipline is what keeps you in the race. When the excitement fades, Because there's no victory without struggle, no growth without repetition. Every champion you admire didn't get there by doing what felt good. They got there by doing what was necessary. They trained when they were tired. They showed up when no one was watching. They didn't let mood dictate movement. That's the mindset that separates the average from the exceptional. Discipline teaches you ownership. It doesn't allow you to blame circumstances or emotions for your lack of progress. It makes you accountable. When you're disciplined, excuses lose their power. You stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I will. You stop waiting for motivation and start creating momentum. Every small act of discipline becomes a seed that grows into confidence. You begin to trust yourself, not because you feel inspired, but because you've proven that you can do hard things even when you don't want to. That's real strength. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel in the moment. It cares about who you're becoming through the process. And that's why emotional people burn out, but disciplined people build legacy. When you live by emotion, you chase results. When you live by discipline, you chase progress. Emotion wants instant gratification. It wants the reward without the repetition. It wants to see change now or loses interest. But discipline knows that greatness is slow, that success comes in inches, not leaps. It teaches patience, teaches endurance. It reminds you that consistency compounds, that small steps done daily will outpace big steps done rarely. Emotion looks for motivation. Discipline builds habits. Emotion wants to be entertained. Discipline wants to be excellent. That's why so many start strong but never finish. They were led by how they felt instead of what they committed to. Discipline says do it anyway. And that's the most powerful statement you can live by. There's power in routine. When you structure your life around discipline, you remove the chaos of indecision. You no longer waste energy debating whether you should act. You just act. The mind becomes sharper because it's no longer cluttered with hesitation. Discipline simplifies life. It gives you direction when emotion tries to confuse you. When your feelings scream, I can't do this anymore, discipline calmly says, yes, you can. You've done it before. And every time you obey that voice of discipline, you build trust with yourself. You realize that your word matters. You start to walk differently, talk differently, think differently, because discipline gives you power over your emotions instead of being a prisoner to them. But discipline doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you master them. You still feel pain, frustration, fear, and doubt. You just don't let those feelings make your decisions. You acknowledge them, then move forward anyway. That's emotional maturity. The world will always be full of people who act out of emotion, who quit when they're sad, lash out when they're angry, or give up when they're tired. But you have to be different. You have to be grounded. You have to be the one who stands firm when everyone else wavers. Discipline gives you that stability. It anchors you in purpose when emotions try to pull you away. It allows you to keep your peace in chaos and your vision in confusion. Discipline also teaches respect for time, for effort, for the journey. When you commit to a path and stick to it, even when no one's watching, you develop integrity. You stop making promises you don't keep. You start valuing every moment, every opportunity. You begin to see that each day is a test. Will you choose how you feel, or will you choose who you're becoming? Discipline reminds you that the grind is not punishment. It's preparation. Every repetition, every hour of focus, every sacrifice, it's all building something eternal. Emotion gives you excuses, but discipline gives you evidence. Evidence that you are worthy, capable, and relentless. And when the results finally come, when the world starts to notice, when the rewards begin to show, you'll look back and realize it wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was the days you didn't want to show up but did anyway. It was the nights you wanted to quit but pushed through. Discipline over emotion. That's how you built the life you wanted. That's how you turned potential into power. Emotion may give you passion, but discipline gives you progress. And when passion fades, as it always does, discipline will still be there, standing beside you, quietly saying, let's keep going. Faith isn't built in comfort, it's built in chaos. It's easy to believe when everything is working out, when doors are opening, when prayers are being answered. But true faith, the kind that moves mountains, is born in the dark, in the waiting, in the silence where nothing makes sense. Faith is when you keep walking, even when the path disappears beneath your feet. It's when you trust the process, even when it feels like you're losing. It's when you whisper, "I still believe," through tears that no one else sees. Unbreakable faith is not about ignoring fear. It's about standing firm in spite of it. It's knowing that every setback is a setup, every delay is divine timing, and every closed door is protection in disguise. Because faith isn't fragile, it's forged. And the more it's tested, the stronger it becomes. There will be seasons in life when it feels like heaven has gone quiet. You'll pray and hear nothing. You'll hope and see nothing. And doubt will creep in, telling you it's pointless, that you're forgotten, that maybe you should give up. But that silence isn't rejection. It's refinement. It's the space where faith grows roots. You see, faith doesn't flourish in certainty. It flourishes in uncertainty. When you can't see what's ahead but still take a step forward, that's faith. When you can't feel God but still trust that He's working, that's faith. It's choosing belief over evidence, persistence over proof. Every time you refuse to surrender to fear, your faith gains muscle. Every time you keep showing up when you could have walked away, your faith becomes unbreakable. Unbreakable faith is not loud, it's quiet confidence. It doesn't need to shout or prove itself, it simply knows. It's that peace you feel in the middle of chaos, that calm voice inside saying, "I don't know how, but I know it's going to work out." It's that unshakable inner stillness that no failure can steal. Because faith teaches you to stop obsessing over the how and trust the why. You begin to understand that even the storms have purpose. The why, you begin to understand that even the storms have purpose, that every pain, every loss, every detour is part of a divine design far greater than your understanding. When you walk with faith, you stop needing control. You stop fighting every battle. You start releasing, surrendering, flowing. You start to realize that maybe you're not being punished, you're being positioned. Faith gives you vision when your eyes can't see. It lets you see possibility in the impossible, hope in the hopeless, light in the dark. It transforms fear into fuel. Because faith says, even if it doesn't happen my way, it will happen the right way. It gives you courage to face rejection because you know what's meant for you can't be taken. It gives you patience to endure delay because you know timing matters more than speed. It gives you strength to smile through struggle because you know what's coming is better than what's gone. Faith doesn't promise an easy road, but it promises a meaningful one. And the moment you stop depending on sight, that's when faith starts to work its miracles. Unbreakable faith is tested most when everything falls apart, when you lose what you thought you needed, when the plan crumbles, when you hit rock bottom. That's where real faith begins. Not on the mountaintop, but in the valley. Because in the valley, there's no one left to lean on but the one who never leaves. Faith teaches you that rock bottom isn't the end, it's the foundation. It's the place where you rebuild, where you rise. Every failure becomes a stepping stone. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes direction. When you've got unbreakable faith, even your losses lead you to victory. You stop asking, why me, and start saying, try me. Because faith doesn't fear the storm, it remembers who calms it. Building unbreakable faith means trusting the unseen and believing before you receive. It's about walking with conviction when everything around you says quit. The world tells you to doubt, to give up, to only believe what you can measure. But faith tells you to stand firm even when you're trembling. Faith is what turns anxiety into assurance, despair into destiny. It's the fire that keeps you warm in the coldest seasons of life. When people walk away, when the doors close, when the lights go out, faith keeps burning. It whispers, keep going, your story isn't over. And every time you choose faith over fear, heaven takes notice. Because faith is action. It's movement without sight, obedience without evidence, courage without certainty. But unbreakable faith isn't built overnight. It's built through seasons of breaking and rebuilding, of losing and learning. Every trial you endure adds another layer to it. Every heartbreak you survive makes it stronger. Faith matures when you realize that unanswered prayers are not neglect, they're redirection. You stop demanding control and start embracing trust. You begin to see that sometimes the blessing isn't in getting what you want, It's in becoming who you are meant to be. Faith transforms your perspective. You stop saying, I can't believe this is happening to me, and start saying, this must be happening for me. That shift changes everything. It gives your pain purpose and your journey power. And one day, you'll look back at every season that tried to break you, and you'll smile. Not because it was easy, but because you endured. You'll see how every unanswered prayer led you somewhere better, how every setback was setting you up. You'll realize that faith didn't just carry you through the storm, it made you unshakable in it. You'll walk with a quiet strength, a steady peace, a light that no darkness can dim. That's unbreakable faith. Not the kind that avoids trouble, but the kind that stands tall in the middle of it and says, I'm not afraid. I know who walks with me. Keep moving forward. 3 simple words, but they hold the power to change your entire life, because no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you fall, those words are the difference between staying broken and becoming unbreakable. Life will hit you. It will knock the air out of your lungs, test away what you love, and test every ounce of your faith. But as long as you can take one more step, as long as you can lift your head and whisper, not yet, I'm not done, you're still in the fight. Moving forward isn't about speed, it's about direction. It's not about how fast you get there, it's about refusing to go backward. Every step, no matter how small, counts, because forward is forward, even when you're crawling. You keep moving, not because it's easy, but because your story isn't finished yet. There will be moments when progress feels invisible. You'll give everything you have and still feel like you're stuck. You'll pray, work, hope, and still see no result. That's when most people quit. But not you, because you understand that the process is the prize. That every second you stay consistent is one step closer to the life you're building. The universe tests you right before your breakthrough. The universe tests you right before your breakthrough. It wants to know if you really mean it. Can you stay faithful when it looks like nothing is changing? Can you trust that every seed you've planted is growing even when it's buried beneath the dirt? The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stop too soon. Keep moving forward even when you can't see what's ahead. Sometimes progress is invisible until it isn't. There's a kind of strength that's built only through persistence. The kind that doesn't come from winning easily, but from losing and still standing back up. Every failure is a teacher, every setback a lesson. The difference between the broken and the brave is that the brave get back up one more time, then they fall. You might have to cry while you crawl, but crawl anyway. You might have to fight tired, but fight anyway. You might not see the light yet, but keep walking toward it. Because motion itself creates momentum. Once you move, even slightly, the world starts to respond. The energy of forward movement pulls opportunities, people, and progress toward you. You don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to keep going. Direction matters more than speed, and consistency matters more than perfection. Keep moving forward, because staying still is surrender. Standing still might feel safe, but it slowly suffocates your dreams. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in motion. You have to be willing to move, even when it's messy, even when you're scared. The path won't be straight. It'll twist, turn, and throw obstacles in your way. But if you keep moving, the obstacles turn into stepping stones. The mountains that once intimidated you become the view you stand on. Every time you choose progress over paralysis, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances. Movement builds confidence, confidence builds power, and power builds peace. You begin to realize that it was never about the destination, it was about the courage to keep walking, even when the road disappeared. Moving forward requires letting go. You can't run while holding on to what hurt you. You can't embrace tomorrow while clinging to yesterday. The people who left, the mistakes you made, the moments that broke you, they were lessons, not life sentences. Carry the wisdom, not the weight. Because the more baggage you drag with you, the slower your progress. Sometimes moving forward means forgiving those who will never apologize, releasing what you can't change, and choosing peace over pride. That's not weakness, it's strength. It takes power to move on when your heart still wants to look back. But the truth is, you can't heal in the same place that hurt you. You have to move, not because you're ready,